how are you screening your tenants with Section 8? And the next question is, been a bad stigma of, well, I just don't want that type of tenant that's Section 8. They're bad tenants, So what do
So,
you say to that?
okay, I've told this story many times, I suppose, but I guess I'll try and make it short here. I don't want to say forever, but I've been in the Metro Detroit Facebook groups for, I don't know, many, many years now, 7, 8 years. And I think the very first group meetup that I went to was probably 7 or 8 years ago, something like that.
To do better in their business, but I also have to.
I don't know how to do it.
Kind of where are you going in the future? Because we kind of seen where you're at right now. You have some property. How many properties do you own right now?
Couple dozen.
Couple dozen?
I don't want to really go anymore. I consider myself retired, essentially.
Okay.
They do pop up. I've
Mm-hmm.
bought 4 in the last year, actually 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
All those, every single one of them, by the way, were karma houses. So karma house meaning I would not have found the deal or bought the house had I not been assisting somebody, helping somebody, looking,
Right.
So with the exception of that, it's very rare for me to even want to buy another house. I'll look here and there, but
Mm-hmm.
unless it's a good deal, I really don't try to buy something new. So
Okay.
I'm kind of stuck. I'm kind of stuck where I'm, or staying where I want to be. I take more
Okay.
vacations, than anything. I just got back from China. I think we talked about that a little bit.
Yeah. What area in Detroit do you stay on? East side, west
I'm
side?
mostly the east side. I do have
Okay.
some west side properties. The only reason I have them is karma.
Yep.
I've got a 2-family in Dexter Linwood area that I bought last year.
Okay.
That the same thing. So pretty much of east side, although the east side has its issues. I'm more familiar. I was born on the east side, as I said.
Yep.
So I'm more familiar with it. I'm more comfortable with it. All my guys live at or near the east side. So, if I say, hey, I want you to go all the way to the west side, that's like 45 minutes drive, essentially, extra.
Mm-hmm.
It just, so I try to stay away from the west side if I can, just for that reason. I know that
And
gas
yeah,
so
that's understandable, but most of my buyers are trying to buy only on the west side and stay away from the east side.
absolutely.
So, um, you know, the so Steve actually asked, how do you prevent a contractor from putting a lien on your property only because they are not on the same page with you? For instance, after you're not happy with them and fire them.
That's a good question. I can tell you that 90% or I'm not going to over exaggerate. I'm going to say 70% or more of the contractors in Detroit are not licensed.
Right.
And a non-licensed contractor cannot put a lien on your property.
100%. Now,
So,
if you are I want to add to that real quick. If you are having a licensed contractor and you guys do have a scrubble and he's trying to put a lien on it, the best thing you can do is keep meticulous records of everything.
good point.
Okay. You should be in the first place, should have either the contract, the text messages saying you were unhappy with such and such work, with photos before, photos after, so on and so forth, just for documentation purposes.
Your contract should be pretty ironclad in exactly what it should be, what you're expecting, what they're expecting, the money,
Mm-hmm.
how long, who gets money at what time, and the final product, what you're looking for, etc. And if you have a problem, there should be something in there about I'm forgetting the words now. My Gulf War syndrome is kicking in, but you have a third party mediation or something like
Yep.
that, to where something like that can, has to be done before they're allowed to put that on there. Because if you have it in a contract, you have a signed contract saying you're not allowed to put a lien on the property until we have this third party mediation, and they do it, you're going to win. So, but again, in
Right.
Detroit, most of them aren't, which, I should say you should always use a licensed contractor, but there's so few licensed contractors in the city of Detroit that actually are inexpensive enough to use. Unfortunately, so
Right.
many of them are, want to charge you way too much money for obviously easy things or something, but I won't go into that. That's a whole nother conversation. So
Yeah, I know a few people who be like, hey, they're just trying to survive. They're trying to, but they don't want to go and work for somebody. So they want to have their own business, but they don't really want to go through the licensing process or anything like that. They just want to work an honest day's work, you know? So you get those people. And the thing is that you still, I don't care if they're licensed or they're not licensed, you still have to still get a contract. 100%. So even if it's a written contract on paper on a napkin and you both sign it, I'm not saying you have to have a lawyer draw everything up. There's, if you have something stating, this is what I want, this is what we agree upon, this is how you're going to get paid, and this is the acceptance, so on and so forth.
As somebody said, you can have them sign a lien waiver clause in the contract. Sort of the same thing.
So that's Martin from the Facebook group said that, in the contract, you can have them do that, but if they are licensed, more than likely, they're probably not going to sign that. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Yeah.
So, because that's their only way or only recourse of being able to get the money. If you as the seller, because there are bad landlords out there. It's not just bad contractors. There are bad landlords and cheap people who just don't want to pay. So absolutely. They got to be protected as well. For this. So what are you planning on doing in the future? You said you're kind of semi-retired and kind of do that. Are you planning on doing some more mentoring? Or
I don't think I'll ever stop that. I get calls every other day. I just went to lunch last week with 4 different people. Candy was one of them, actually. Hi, Candy, again. I've been to lunch with Ted before. Actually, I sold him a house. Now that I think about it.
So yeah, Ted says, "Where is Jay's favorite lunch place in Detroit? He goes to so many."
I don't actually like to eat. I know I don't want to make this sound like I'm being prejudicial against the city of Detroit, but I try not to eat in Detroit. There's one of my favorite mentees, my friends, I should say. Her name is Jing. The reason I went to China, she went to get married there, and she invited me to come, so that's why I went. But
that's awesome.
Our place, I suppose, is this Chinese buffet. She's Chinese, and she goes to a non-Chinese Chinese buffet and 14 in Van Dyke. That's kind of one of my, hey, buffets are great for fat.
Oh my God, I love that place actually.
Yeah.
I love that place. I've been there many
I don't
times.
mind where we go. Some people want to go to some wacky. I don't like Thai food and I don't like sushi, but other than that, I can pretty much eat anything. So I'm not that picky about stuff. So just wherever is convenient for people, I suppose.
That's awesome. So with that being said, like what is your plan?
Jumping off subject here.
So
I don't think
what's your plans for the future?
I'm not going to stop helping anybody that ever wants it. I don't be, sitting holed up in a bed or something, on a heart monitor or something. I'm going to be talking to people, I suppose. I just enjoy it. As far as I'm sure I will pick up more properties, even though I'm not like actively going nuts about it. I've got another class that I want to do here actually on Section 8 soon. I'd like to put together a little bit more of a central place for all the classes that I've done to try and help people. And I don't charge for any of that stuff. Again, like I said, I do have a group for anybody that is into Section 8 in the Metro Detroit area. I created it because I was running out of tenants actually. And I thought, so I'll just search for Detroit Section 8 in Facebook. And I found two groups, and one had 8 users in it and one had 12 or something. And neither one had been used in the last year. So I created a group, the Metro Detroit Section 8 group, whatever. And I've had it about 2 years now, and there's 22,000 members in it. So apparently there's a lot of people that want to know about Section 8. So I spend a lot of time monitoring, admin, whatever you want to call it, that, and a couple other little ones. But if you do want to get into a group that all about Section 8, that's a good one to start.
Most definitely. I think you need to do your research. You need to figure out. So, actually Martin from the Facebook group says, I've been researching Detroit heavily and been planning a flight down there. Before I purchase a property. Great. Honestly, best thing you could do. So I would like to connect with you guys, and when I'm down there, by all means, reach out to us. We're happy to. But that kind of brings me up another thing is if somebody is brand new, say to Section 8, how are they looking? What do they need to look for? How do they screen their tenants properly? What's the best, and how do they get signed up to do Section 8? Is there a Section 8 process to sign up for?
It is the exact opposite of what most people think. And again, I've done a whole class. If you go to that group and you do join the group, in the featured section is a video that I did on what is Section 8, how you get into it, how, what to do, not to do, everything about Section 8, and we're afraid to ask type situation. The shortest answer to that right now is you find a tenant that is on Section 8, and they give you paperwork, you fill it out, and then the property is inspected by Section 8 after you find the tenant. It's not the other way. Most people think, oh, I go to a Section 8 office and sign up as a Section 8 landlord. No, you don't do that. It's the opposite. So,
and what's their inspection entail? Is it on par with, say, the city inspection? So if you get a city certification,
if you pass a city inspection, chances are, with some very, very minor details, you'll pass a Section 8 and vice versa. They have slightly different, HUD or Section 8 is a HUD inspection essentially. And the city's inspections generally go off of HUD guidelines. So it's generally pretty close to the same. Sometimes they, one will say you have to have screens. Section 8, you have to have screens. The city generally is a little different on that. Where the smoke detectors are or carbon monoxide is a slightly different. Other than that, most of it is the same. I would have to say Section 8 can be a little bit tougher, but that's just based on the fact that the inspectors are kind of held to a higher standard. The standard is the same, as in if they had truly a list of everything that they have to check, they both have essentially the same list. City inspectors are a little bit more lax than a Section 8 inspector because that's truly by HUD, Housing and Urban Development, and they can be zapped if they don't do a good job. So there are some Section 8 inspectors that are famous for being pains in the butt. There's certain places, Plymouth, Westland, etc., they have the hardest inspector of pretty much of all of them. So, but they're still fair. If you're a slumlord, don't go to Section 8. In fact, 20 years ago, if somebody would have asked me 20 some years ago, should I be a Section 8 landlord in Detroit, I would say no, because there's no good properties. There wasn't very many good landlords. They were all just junk essentially at the time. And the city didn't care about inspections back then. So it didn't work out very well. But if your property is in fairly decent shape, chances are you'll pass an inspection. Safety, sanitary, security is really the three things. As long as your property is safe, sanitary, and secure, doesn't have lead paint chips all over the place, etc., you'll pass.
So Samir Zakem, and I'm probably mispronounced that last name, on Facebook said, are there specific agencies that you would recommend staying away from working with?
That depends on the month sometimes. I would suppose that if you asked 99 people that deal with Section 8 in the city of Detroit that Detroit housing is the one that some people try to shy away from. And there are times that I have said, oh, I don't want to take any Detroit Section 8 or Detroit Housing Commission Section 8 right now because they, at one time I actually had 3 months to wait for an inspection.
Oh, wow.
And that's crazy. They're not that far anymore, and they're okay in other areas. They're actually, their inspectors are some of the more lenient ones. And even though it takes a little longer to get paid, you'll always get paid. I personally, the three that I dislike the most, I suppose, or sometimes have issues with, Inkster specifically, they're run terribly, or they were. I haven't dealt with them in almost a year now, but they're terribly run, I suppose. I went for 2 years waiting for a rent increase, and at the end they finally came to me and said, okay, we're going to take care of this now. I'll give you backdated 1 month, and that's it. I'm like, no, I asked for this increase 2 years ago. You need to give me 2 years. And like, nope, we don't have it in the budget. Okay, well, I'm raising the rent next month. Nope, we don't have it in the budget. Nobody will tell you that but Inkster.
Wow.
Plymouth and Westland, they're good people that work there. I don't have a problem with that, but their pricing is lower than most, and their inspectors are really tough in Livonia. Other than that, RPI is pretty good. Every one of them is good, and every one of them is bad. You'll never get through in the phone on virtually any of them. Sometimes it takes forever to get an email back, but they're still worth dealing with. You'll always get paid eventually, and that's really all that matters.
Most definitely. So, Martin from Facebook said, I'm worried about permits being issued on a timely matter, which is actually that's a city issue. That's going to be anywhere. That's going to be the city commission in whatever city you're trying to get that in. Every city is a little bit different, but with how are you screening your tenants with Section 8? And the next question is, there's been a bad stigma of, well, I just don't want that type of tenant that's Section 8. They're bad tenants, So what do you say to that?
Okay. I've told this story many times, I suppose, but I guess I'll try and make it short here. I don't want to say forever, but I've been in the Metro Detroit Facebook groups for, I don't know, many, many years now, 7, 8 years. And I think the very first group meetup that I went to was probably 7 or 8 years ago, something like that. And I met a gentleman that's actually well known in the group. And I walked up to him, started talking, we're just chatting about real estate. And some young lady walked up to us and said, hi, my name is so-and-so, and I want to buy properties in Detroit and I want to rent them Section 8. What do you think? And I turned to this fine young friend and said, Jeff, what do you think? And he's like, oh, you tell me. I'm like, I'm new in the group. I didn't really want to say anything, but so I tried to ask him. No. You tell me what you think first. I said, okay, well, depends on the property, depends on the area, depends on the city, depends on the tenant, the housing agency. But overall, it's a good program. If all these things meet, the C and D, areas, you're not going to get it in Bloomfield or anything like that. It's not worth it, et cetera. But overall, it can be a good program. And I turned to him and, what do you think? And, I'm telling you, it seemed like his face turned purple and a big old vein popped up over here. And he's like, oh my God, in 1978, I had this tenant that destroyed my house and I called and complained to Section 8 and they laughed at me and said, ha ha ha, we got another stupid landlord, and hung up on me. I'll never deal with them again. Now, that's a total exaggeration in the story, and it didn't happen that way. But that's essentially the gist he was trying to get across, is that it's the worst thing ever and you should never do it. It's not like that. In fact, so much so that I argue on Facebook groups quite a bit, when somebody says that there's terrible, and I don't necessarily just try to defend Section 8, but I give my experiences and say, it's not really like that anymore. It's not like it was 30 years ago. There are whatever. But so in the Oakland REA, we had probably 4 months ago, something like that, 5 months ago, they had a panel of Section 8 people, which included 2 housing agency people. And I went to it, and I always want to learn new stuff, so I just went there as a Joe, regular Joe. And they talked about everything's Section 8. And in that, someone had mentioned about, well, what happens if somebody causes damage, or what happens if somebody's kicked off the program? And they had mentioned, oh, well, they would be kicked off if they did some damage, but they can always appeal, and most of the appeals get put back on. But they didn't explain the situation, and that became the gospel for, there's one particular person that was in that REA that's on the board. It was on the board. And I went to that specific person that said that and got the straight poop. And then I went around to every single housing agency I could talk to that I could get a hold of. It took me several months to do it, and I still have my numbers that I haven't really posted. But the gist of it is that if you talk to any housing agency and ask them how many people, the way I did, how many people are kicked off Section 8 for damage, bad tenants, etc., not talking about not doing their paperwork, which is what that person was talking about that day. So, and the answer was almost the same throughout every single one of the housing agencies, which I think I have 10 or 12 of them that I asked. 3 to 5% of Section 8 tenants are kicked off the program for being damaged or, not paying
Right.
rent, not paying the utilities, whatever. The rest of those people are people that just didn't turn in their paperwork. So, and then they can appeal that. And and at the review hearing, they'll say, well, did you fill out your paperwork? Yeah, I filled it out afterwards, even though I was kicked off. And they say, okay, we'll put you back on. But a person that causes damage is not just that easy to get put back on, especially if there's any kind of judgment or anything. If you get a judgment against a Section 8 tenant, they're done. There is no appeal. If you have a money judgment against them, it's an automatic, you're done. You're not getting back on, period. Unless you pay off that judgment, I suppose. And then you got to
And that's actually one reason I like Section 8 tenants, is because they know that. So they are going to do everything that they can to make sure that they'll work with you. They'll see what they can do. They don't want no judgments against them. They don't want to get off the program.
Yeah.
Who wants to get off a program where they're getting free rent?
Yeah. If you were rough, hard, had a problem, broke a leg or something, lost your job, got put in a homeless shelter, tried to clean yourself up, and somebody came up to you and said, hey, buddy, I'm going to help you out. I'm going to give you a free rent or lower income rent. All you got to do is not destroy the house. Are you going to destroy the house? Not a normal, sane person, I suppose. There are a few exceptions. I've had one sort of bad tenant myself, but wasn't even that bad. So, hi, Brian, Bo, technically.
So yeah, Bo, Brian, and I guess said, hey, Jay, how's it going? My good man. But the Martin from Facebook said he always had 6 photos of every room, 4 walls, floors, ceilings, and had them sign on the condition of the house. Absolutely. That's what you have to do. That's what you have to do. Whatever makes you feel safe as a landlord to get things moving forward, do it. Okay. What are they going to do? No, I'm not going to do that. Okay, then you're not going to, we'll tear up the lease right now. I'll find another tenant.
Yep.
There was once a day that I would pray for you. I'd go and misbehave just so you'd notice too. Sneaking looks up and down from across the room. And damn, what a hell of a view.